You touched on that already, that we're going to have to, the farmers will have to possibly retrain or something has to change so that they can be more efficient, that they can actually work with those systems and work with the data. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? What do you think the academia, where does it all fit in that scheme of...
I have some strong views, but I have to remain very diplomatic here.
Right.
So in my olden days, when I started my career, there were a lot of independent colleges, if you remember, back on those days, agriculture colleges, which specifically aimed to educate, not scientists necessarily, might be, but not necessarily, but a lot of high-tech, innovative, young farm managers. Now, these colleges basically disappeared everywhere. They typically, in all countries, we talked about that, Sebastian, they've been dissolved into, incorporated into larger universities. And I love universities, don't misunderstand it. I don't want to be sacked by any universities. But unfortunately, universities now put disproportional emphasis on just pure scientific education, which is important, nothing wrong with that. But we need practical aspect in university education, especially for young farmers, for example. They need to understand the science, they have to have that link, but we need to provide some practical knowledge which they can actually take to their farms and improve the quality of agriculture production, for example, using new technologies. So I think, and there are some good examples, isn't it? And you will be able to say a few.
Is there something maybe here in Poland that is like a good example of a course that you particularly liked, that you maybe experienced yourself, Sebastian?
You mean like a course or more like a already set up that they have, for example, a technical university?
In fact, both. I think I'm interested in both. Is there maybe a specific course that you came across? It doesn't have to be by our university, but maybe you feel that it's been constructed in such a way or designed in such a way that this really will give the farmer.
I know that some companies, without having the saying name, for example, in Netherlands, they're using this setup for promoting their let's say equipment and production. So they build like very small farms that the people during the weekend can come and just look at the production. And there are also all these nice things, because you have to remember that now more people is living in the cities, less at the villages. So they are also not so good. So it's not so familiar with the rural system. So that's another issue. And then I remember that I was every holidays going at the village to my grandparents, and they had few animals, and I was really familiar with that. It's not happening anymore. Yeah, now the people for the holidays are going to Egypt or to Asia or whatever,
Very good.
And they are not looking at animals at all. So if you literally ask someone how many eggs one hen can lay per day, they can even say 5 or 6, which is amazing.
Will you please give us the right answer?
Yeah,
for everyone,
almost,
how many?
Almost 1, yeah. So that shows you that they are not educated. So that's I agree with Thomas that scientific level, the high scientific excellence is very important, but also we have to deal with the regular basic knowledge that it's not that for us it's something obvious that they know it, but they don't have a clue. And then I'm coming to the point that this is the best way if you make the setups like this. And I was mentioning about, for example, how to make it familiar with the use. We use all these tools that we are now using. So the mobiles, everyone has 1 or 2 even. So if you can sneak via mobile into their mind, for example, via some social media and something like that, that's also important. Sometimes it's funny. And for the guys like we are, quite adult, then maybe it's not so...
So good science communication?
Yeah.
Very important.
Maybe not
Very
so
important.
high science, but actual
That's right.
easy questions answered in a practical, funny way.
Absolutely. And as I said, there are actually good examples. So there are universities in Australia now try to provide almost vocational level of courses. In Taiwan, when I worked there, I had the opportunity to put on a very practical precision farming course, and I also developed for would-be entrepreneurs a PLF commercialization course. So it was a course about the problems and challenges associated with commercializing PLF type technologies. So these courses are basically increasingly, as a very good example, provided by universities. But what I wanted to say here and emphasize that I think there is incredibly important role to play for universities to retain the new workforce, which will be required on farms, which, as I said, they need to be at least technologically aware, if not experts, but technologically aware.